Christy here from Loom Craftyfiberarts. Today I want to show you how to make the Fancy Ribbed Beanie. I designed this on the KB 60 peg topper for the rotating loom that they have, and this loom is divisible by 10, so whatever loom you use needs to be divisible by 10, whether it be a half gauge, that is a half gauge, whether it be a half gauge, or you could also use like the 3/8 gauge 80 peg, divisible by 10. So just remember it needs to be even pegged and divisible by 10. And I'll show you how to set up your loom in just a minute. Now this hat is kind of form fitting. It does fit kind of, I don't want to say tight, but it fits. It's not baggy looking, okay? And you can see that on the form that I've got it on. And I tried it on my head. I've got a lot of hair, and this one actually is just a little bit tight on me. So, but I have a lot of hair. So anybody that has a smaller head, I think this would work for you. And if you use a higher weight of yarn on a half gauge, it'll make it even tighter because the stitch is going to be tighter. And someone asked about that, and I think I told them exactly the opposite of what I just told you now, but what I'm telling you now is the way it's supposed to be, and I'll have to correct that where I mentioned that in a group. This did measure 20 inches around, but it will stretch. So if you have a smaller head, this should work really well for that. And then if you have a bigger head, it will work too because it will stretch. It kind of form fits, kind of molds to your head kind of. It does have a slightly kind of scalloped edging around the bottom, and you don't see that quite as much when you put it on, but I thought it kind of give it a little nice interest around there, and that's because of the way the stitches are formed and the way I did the alternating stitch pattern. I did use a regular drawstring bind off. I did a E-wrap knit stitch about 4 rows before I did that, so it would lose some of the bulk up here, but you're welcome to do any bind off you wish for a hat. Now I would not consider this reversible at all, like turning up the brim or anything. If you want to make it longer, I don't think it would look good unless, now this is brimless also, so if you want to make it with a brim, you could try that too, and you wouldn't have this here. So that's up to you. When you do measure it, if you make it brimless and you do measure it from the top of the crown down to this area, which is the rice rib stitch. These 2 rows here, it's actually 4 pegs, and that will give you your true length. Don't measure it here because it's going to be a little bit longer on this other stitch area. So measure it where the rice rib is, and you'll see what I'm talking about when you work yours. That'll give you your true length. Okay? Now, to set up your loom, this is my KB 60 peg topper, which is what I made that on with a number 4 weight 1 strand yarn worsted. And you will need to, of course, have your starting peg here. And remember I said it was divisible by 10. So what I did was I left 6 pegs unmarked so I would know what the stitch is for those 6 pegs. And then I marked 4. And see I've got a band around these 4 here. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be going around the loom alternating 6 pegs, 4 pegs, 6 pegs, 4 pegs. That's where the 10 divisible by 10 comes in. So here I've got 6, 4, 6 unmarked, 4 marked, 6 unmarked, 4 marked, 6 unmarked, 4 marked. You get the picture. So when you come back around, it's going to be opposing. You're not going to have 4 marked up against 4. It's going to be 4 marked up against 6. So you want to alternate in that way. You don't want like 2 6 sets together or 2 4 sets together. You want it 6 4 6 4 6 4. So that's the way it's supposed to be. And this would work, if I hadn't mentioned it, it would work on a 80 peg 3/8 gauge for a hat too. Okay, so to get started, let me move the camera back down here. To get started, we are going to use this little loom, and I'm just going to show you the 6 pegs and then the 4 pegs. I did not mark them, but I will clearly show you what's supposed to be done on each set. Okay, so we're pretending we're going to be working in the round, and after this I will do a review and some tips. If you will hang around for that. If you don't, you're going to get your pattern straight up. I'm sorry it took so long, but I had to explain how it's set up in the beginning. Okay, so we're starting at peg 1, and we're going to do a figure 8 stitch. So we're going to be coming around peg 1 and going around the back of 2, back around the front of 2 to the back, and then back around like this. So your first 2 pegs are going to be a figure 8 and you're going to knit them off. Your third peg is just going to be a regular E-wrap knit stitch, and you're going to knit it off. Then you're going to repeat that. Remember, this is in sets of 6 to begin with. So there's your 6. So now we've got 3 more pegs. So you're going to do a figure 8 again. Just like this. Knit it off. And then we're going to do an E-wrap knit stitch and knit that. Your next 4 pegs is your rice rib stitch. So this first row, for that, you're going to do your purl overs. So all 4 of these for the first row is going to be the purl overs. So every set of 4 you have will be purl overs, just like that. So if you haven't done a purl over, you come from your previous stitch peg, wrap around the back to the front, skip up from the bottom, pull your loop down, flip it over, and snug it up slightly. Don't snug it up too tight. And then this will be your last 4. And then you would start again with 6, 4, 6, 4, however big your hat's going to be, or whatever you're working in the round. Okay, so that's row 1. So we finished row 1. We're coming back to row 2. Row 2, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to E-wrap, but then this stitch is going to be something different. So we're going to E-wrap, I said E-wrap, I meant figure 8 stitch. We're going to figure 8 around these 2 pegs, and we're going to knit them. And then instead of E-wrapping this one, we're going to purl it. Okay? And then remember, we're working in 6s and 4s, so this set of 6, we've got 3 more, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to figure 8 stitch, knit both of those, and then purl. Okay? Now if you've done my regular rice rib stitch, you know what comes next. The next 4 pegs, wrap 2 as 1, knit both those loops off, lay your working yarn in the middle toward you, those 2 loops you just knit off, purl that second peg. Okay? And you're going to do the same thing for the next set in your 4 that you've marked off. And that's it. That is how you do the Fancy Ribbed Beanie. Okay, so now I'm going to do my review and tips. My review and tips are, as with this loom, I would mark my 4 pegs with the band and leave the 6 open, and then leave the 6 open, mark my 4 with the band. I would do it that way. Now or you can use your 4 stitch markers that you choose, however you want to do it, but I'd mark the 4 with stitch markers or some kind of marker and leave the 6 open. But if you choose to do it a different way, that's fine. My next tip, I'm going to pretend I'm going around, I'm starting row 1 again. My next tip is, when I do mine, I go ahead and figure 8, and then I E-wrap. Then I figure 8, then I E-wrap. And I don't knit those off until I finish my row. I go back and knit them off. I don't know why. It seems to work faster for me than stopping and knitting each peg as I go. And so then when I come to my 4, I'll just go ahead and do, this is row 1, remember, I'll go ahead and do my purl overs, each one of them. like so. And then when I come to my next set of 6, remember we're going 6, 4, 6, 4, 6, 4. I'll do the same thing. I'll do my wrap 8, E-wrap. Okay? So then when I get to row 2, I'm going to go ahead and do this so you'll know that they do need to be knit off if you do it this way. And then when I get to row 2, and this, remember, this is just my tip. You don't have to do it this way. I just go ahead and figure 8 these first 2, and then I pull my yarn back behind. You know, as you do your figure 8, your yarn's back behind. Instead of knitting them, I go ahead and purl that second peg. And I just leave those on there until I get done with my row. And then I'll go back and knit them off. Now if that doesn't work for you, that's fine. Like I said, it's up to you. And then I do the same thing on my next set of 3 in my 6 peg set. And then I come here to my 4 pegs, and I just go ahead and do my wrap 2, knit them, and then purl my second peg. And that's the way I do mine, and it works pretty fast for me. But it's just a suggestion, just a tip. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Remember to like this video. It helps me spread it far and wide. Share it in groups, on your page, on Facebook, wherever you go on social media, share it. And if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you much. Bye-bye.